Reaction now to the story that Trudy McIntosh was just talking about and Tony Abbott's suggestion that we need to up things in the Middle East. Shadow Comms Minister Sarah Henderson joins us. Is Tony Abbott right? I mean, he's suggesting special forces, strike fighters as well. I mean, we're a little away from the comms portfolio here, Sarah, but what do you make about that?
Well, Pete, good morning. Look, I think Tony Abbott is obviously very concerned about the deterioration in the relationship between the United States and Australia, but the decision to deploy the ADF into the Middle Eastern conflict is a sovereign choice for Australia, and it very much depends on, of course, safeguarding our national interest and also whether we have the defence capability to take further action to support the war in Iran. And these are matters that are solely in the hands of the Albanese government. I think Australians have seen that we haven't had sufficient truth and transparency in relation to the conflict in Iran and also, of course, the fuel crisis in this country. So it really is a matter for the Australian government to inform Australians about whether there is both a national interest and also the appropriate defence capability.
Well, do you think there is? Do you think it's in the national interest? And you just heard from Trudy as well, the Defence Chief saying that a ship is possible.
Well, the opposition can't make that judgment, Pete. That's the bottom line. This is a matter for the Albanese government. And, you know, Australians are very concerned that this government has been caught napping in the midst of a national fuel crisis. The Prime Minister is now scrambling, heading to Singapore. There's still no appropriate transparency on how many days of fuel left in this country, where there are fuel shortages. And, you know, that's why we've been calling for much more transparency in relation to the crisis that we face in this country, as well as, of course, our relationship with the United States.
Well, the Prime Minister, just on that point, is in Singapore at the moment. He's been able to secure months of fuel now that takes us to the middle of the year. Are you encouraged by that?
Of course. I mean, the Prime Minister is acting in the national interest if he is in Singapore, of course, and prosecuting Australia's case for secure fuel supplies. But as I say, I think this government has been caught napping for a number of weeks. We were told there was nothing to see here. We were told there was no crisis. There were cries from farmers, from regional communities. So it is regrettable that the government has been so slow to act. But as I say, we need much more transparency. That's very much in the interest of Australia. You know, you've seen the coalition lead, of course, Pete, prosecuting the case for a halving of the fuel tax. That policy has now been adopted and Australians are paying less at the bowser because of the actions of the coalition. But every single day, this Prime Minister needs to act in the national interest. Because energy security is economic security, and energy security under this government, of course, is faltering.
With this trip to Singapore, also Chris Bowen giving daily updates on fuel stocks locally?
Well, I think Chris Bowen needs to do much more. We need full transparency. Australians should be able to go online and... Well, Australians should be able to go online and check to see where there are fuel shortages so that they can know that when they're travelling somewhere that they will be able to get fuel. But we support any action of this government in the national interest, and we hope and trust that the Prime Minister's trip to
aren't we getting that?
Singapore will reap dividends.
Aren't we getting that with these daily updates?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not seeing enough. We're not seeing enough information in relation to how much fuel is in this country, how many ships are on the way to this country, are there any threatened importation issues. So there's a whole lot of areas, Pete, where Australians are not getting enough information.
All right, Sarah, we're out of time, but appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again next week.